Okay, now on to the fun part, blowing something up. In this case, we're just going to blow up another cube. So I've got a simple cube, and let's take the Xplode plugin and get it ready. And let's unhide this emitter. And the way I did this with the Apple Soldier video where I exploded him, I had I'm sorry, not a cube, I had a sphere as the volume emitter. And I just scaled it down, placed it in the center, and in order to see this, let's take the cube, scale that down, okay, and let's give it a little bit of width. That looks good. Take our emitter, scale that up a little bit. Okay, and then I took the volume emitter, turned that back on. Okay, that's shooting out particles way too fast, so let's slow that down a bit. Okay, that's still a little bit too fast. Okay, that looks pretty good. So we'll just use that for now. So let's click on the cube and make sure we've got fracture object here selected, and let's go ahead and click on scatter. Got a total of 382 pieces. Gonna hide that emitter, turn off the volume emitter, and you can see here what I've done is I placed all of the smaller pieces down at the bottom where the explosion is going to be taking place, and then of course you've got these larger pieces, these chunks that are towards the outside of the explosion area. Alright, now remember, like I said in the first part, that all of this is being controlled by the MoGraph dynamics, and you can also affect the dynamics using MoGraph effectors. So let's right click on this fracture object, give it a rigid body tag, change some parameters here. Let's also create a cube to act as the ground. And I usually like to use cubes for the ground instead of a plane because the cubes have thickness and it actually does a much better job at catching debris. Usually if you use a plane, you have a lot of penetration problem with polygons penetrating the plane and moving past it and going through it. So I usually like to use a cube for the ground. Okay, there's our ground. Take that same MoGraph tag, copy it up to the cube. If we hit play, what we got here is just some crumbling. So let's go create the effector that's going to be triggering the explosion, and we want a plane effector. So what these effectors do is they have a lot of different parameters here, but they affect any pieces that you have here that are being controlled or that are being manipulated by the MoGraph objects. In this case, the pieces inside of the fracture object. So we need to click on the pieces here, go to the effectors tab. Notice there are no effectors here. That means this MoGraph fracture object is not being affected by any effectors, and that's not what we want. So let's take the plane effector and drag it in, and you notice that immediately the cube or these pieces here shot up. And the reason for that is because the plane effector is set to 100. So let's take that down to 0, and now it comes back down to the ground. And the reason why it does that is because you can actually control position, scale, and rotation here of what the plane effector is going to be doing with these objects. Now right now the fall off is set to infinite, and that means it's going to affect everything in the scene immediately, and we don't want that. What we want is a gradual expanding outward from the center. So let's change the fall off sphere. And that looks, I guess that's the size of the fall off looks pretty good right now. Okay, and let's go back over here, and we need to make some keyframes. So let's try, let's see, there's two ways you can do this actually. You can actually keyframe the position here that you want for the Y, and what that's going to do is, say for example on frame 0, give it a keyframe, and I'm just going to control click the little black circle of 0, and then we'll move up to maybe frame 1, and then we'll just keyframe this up to, let's try something about 270, make another keyframe, and then when we hit play, what we get is this huge explosion. So let's go back and change this to maybe something like 155. And one thing that we want to do is change the MoGraph tag on these pieces from immediately to on collision. I'm just going to hide the plane effector in the viewport, and now we hit play again, and now we've got this really nice explosion. If you want to, you can take your plane effector and actually increase the size of the fall off here where it actually is bigger, or if you want it smaller, you can have it smaller. This here seems to be doing the trick pretty good. Let's increase it to 155. That might be a bit too much. Hit play, and now we have debris raining down just like that. So that is how I did the Apple Soldier explosion thing. If you want to, you can actually add another effector. So let's create, this is going to be more of a directional explosion. Let's go create a random effector. And what the random effector is going to do is you can take rotation and you can actually spin the pieces around. Let's take the effector strength and keyframe that. We need to go back over to the pieces, effectors, and we need to drag that random effector in there. Go to the random effector strength, keyframe at 0. Go up a piece here. I mean, not a piece, go up a keyframe. And take that up to 100. Make a keyframe. And we need to set the fall off to something like spherical. And let's take this to 255. Like that. Hide that one as well. Then we'll hit play. And now we get a much better explosion. And basically what that's doing is the first plane effector is actually forcing the explosion outward. And that's pushing the pieces up. And then the random effector is actually, because we turn off the position, we're only using rotation, the random effector, sorry about that, random effector is actually spinning all of the pieces. And now we've got this really big explosion. Alright, so that is how I did the Apple Soldier video. Hope that you understand it now, and maybe that this can help you create your own little explosions. So thanks for watching, guys.